Hi everybody, welcome to the Health Shop located here at 253 Taylor Road, Niagara-On-The-Lake. We got a very interesting podcast today, special guest. First I'm going to introduce my team player and co-host, I guess, Steph.
Hi, Stephanie Jackson here, integrative health practitioner. Welcome, Josh, to our show today.
Thank you.
We'd love to know a little bit about who you are, and we have another little guest over here.
Little.
Yeah, she's only 11 months. She's a baby.
So when we started off with the podcast, we said we're going to do a lot of interesting podcasts, videocasts in the store. One of the things that we talked about was touching on mental health because it's on the forefront in news today, just in society in general. Steph and I talked about, different, the naturopathic way of doing it through herbs and vitamins and supplements. But then we talked about something external or another tool, I guess you can use. And then I mentioned to Steph about my friend Josh that owns Baden K9 and the dogs that they produce out of there. It's just amazing and how they've teamed up and really started to forge forward with mental health and dealing with mental health, and particularly dealing with people that come ex-vets. But I'm not going to steal his thunder. Josh, again, like Steph said, thanks for being here. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Now what? No. So yeah, I appreciate you. So, White Oaks, I'm familiar with it because I work out here, obviously through you. So yeah, I'm honored to be here. Thanks for having us. We're a small little facility not far from here, about 25-30 minutes, in a town called St. Anne's. The name of the company is Baden K9. It's over 40 years old, founded by my father and my mother. The foundation of it was to breed, raise, and train superior dogs, superior genetics to families, and for specifically protection dogs is where we started. And we were successful at that for many years, and then I came up under my father, and 9/11 took place, and then basically we were in a position to support the community with the dogs going overseas, specifically into Iraq and Afghanistan. So we went operational after 9/11, supplying dogs for explosive detection, military working dogs for protection, detection, and then we, in a few years, personally went operational over into the Middle East to support not only the dogs but also our services as well. That lasted till about. Am I still good to go? Talking?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right, I'm just doing all the talking. That lasted till we're still doing it, but operationally it lasted till about 2006. And then things started changing in the war in the Middle East with Iraq and Afghanistan. A lot of veterans coming home. It was a war, and wars that the media was involved with, the viewers could see and interact with. It's not news that I'm telling. Kind of things changed for us. So as a company, we sat back and we went back to really focusing on the family home protection dog program, because the need is always there for families and whatnot. But what happened was again, we were successful with that. We control our own dogs. We have a breeding program on our facility. We don't import any dogs. We started noticing a great need for veterans and their families, not via the news or media, just friends that we connected with during our time with them, specifically the Special Forces community. And guys just started rolling into the facility, hanging out, getting time off, hanging out at the farm, and taking a dog home. Literally, they just, I like that dog, we'd give it to them. There was no charitable organization or structure. We just handled the dog. We saw the effect of the dog, not only for ourselves, but for these veterans. And then some years back, I was connected with the UDT Navy SEAL Museum out of Fort Pierce, Florida, to a gentleman named Rick Kaiser, and he connected with me, contacted me on my cell phone, and asked if we wanted to support the Navy community with a dog. We donated a dog, and now we have what's called at that organization, the Canine Project, which supports the veteran community, their families with dogs for, emotional, physical, and for protection. Am I still good to talk?
Keep going.
Yeah? You want to ask me something? You're gonna cut in. Jess, give me anyways, that's it. I'm out of here. No. What do you got for me? She's got something. You got something or not?
No, I lost it.
Okay.
Wait just a second. Give me a minute.
It's great that you're doing what you're doing. I feel that a lot of the veterans that went over there and sacrificed and now come back and don't have the support network that they need. People don't really understand what mental health is until you've actually been there and you lived it, and then you're reaching out for support. You're reaching out for, what do I do? Where do I go next? It's awesome that there's a facility like yours that can provide them with that tool they need to help them cope with the stuff they're dealing with. Not only veterans, but military. Like I said, veterans, military, police, fire, any first responder.
That's right.
People don't realize that mental health is not triggered by one event, which they think, I was exposed to this. It's an accumulation of events through time, and not only does it have to apply to first responders and military, you can respond to everyday life. I think that society is moving at such a fast pace right now that there is no real coping mechanism, and it's nice to see that people that need to cope can turn to a facility like yours, and it can provide them with a highly qualified, trained dog and the support behind that dog to help them deal with whatever they're dealing with. That's awesome. Sorry, Steph, I didn't mean to. Did you think your question?
Okay.
She's got it.
Yeah, I got it. It just took me a minute to.
She's like, I
had to go on a tantrum there. And,
So it sounds like the business kind of evolves. Like you had one mission of protection dogs and training really high elite quality dogs as a service, but then it evolved into more of this support in helping with, the aftermath of war and what that does to humans.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't think people are necessarily calling you up and reaching out for these services. So how are you starting to kind of bridge that gap? Because I think a lot of people are afraid to ask for help, especially, warriors who've gone through the battle zones.
Yeah.
And then now they are the wounded warrior and they don't know where to start in terms of getting their life back and their recovery.
because they're a very pride person, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So we've been blessed with numerous charitable organizations that have a lot of structure. Before it was, it's a really small community. So I would tell Tom would tell, he called me, I was at an event in Indiana, getting ready to I was in a bite suit, I was getting ready to we were doing a demo for the Navy SEAL Museum, which raises money for the families and all that stuff. And he called me about a guy and that was in the community that he met. It's a really small community. Right, so you can get a one-off and this guy knows this guy and that guy, but we've connected to, and I want to say it because the organizations that we're dealing with is the Navy SEAL Museum, which is their Canine project and other tiers in their charity that support the communities and their families, and then SAL, which is Special Operations Wounded Warriors, which is out of Myrtle Beach. Those two charities for the veteran community, and one more charity that I've recently connected with is Shadow Warriors Project, which is run by a gentleman named Mark Geist, which was Oz in 13 Hours of Real Oz in the movie 13 Hours, Mark Geist, yeah. So his organization supports the contractors or the private military contractors that are supporting the community. So how do we connect with these individuals? We're very blessed now to have these organizations that have access to these people, and then they contact us. Mm-hmm. So we're a service provider for them. We're busy, unfortunately. You guys know the number. The number is 22 a day, Unfortunately, that's right. It is unfortunate. The thing is what we do is effective. How the dogs, I mean, we don't really do anything. The dogs do all the work.
I know.
And we get all the glory, but in reality, they're doing all the work. But it is unfortunate, but you got to keep plugging away at that number.
So what is the day-to-day, I mean, this is a lot of the logistics on the business, but what is the day-to-day life of one of these animals look like in terms of the actual healing and support? And I think it's a two-way street, right? You don't just give someone a dog.
Yeah.
They have that responsibility of this dog. And it's not just any dog. It's, like you said, the breeding, the training, it's at a very high elite level.
Yeah.
So what kind of responsibility would I have as a recipient? And how would
Lots
my
of
day
responsibility.
by day look like in having one of these dogs?
Yeah. So not to get too much into the service dog programs or program, we're really connected in the United States. We do have veterans in Canada. This dog specifically is going to a Canadian veteran that lives outside of Canada now, but they're coming in on the 30th. So the program basically starts with me waking up and telling my wife that she's beautiful, and then from there my day is good. No, the program is, we wake up. We're a small family operated business. There's me, my father, and my son, as well as my some staff members that assist us and trainers, my wife and my mother, and then we have other trainers that assist with bringing the dogs into their homes. But we breed, raise, and train the puppies at 6 to 8 weeks old. We start them, and they basically, move around with us, backpacks, learn from the older dogs, and then we get into the obedience, the stability, the control. But the question you had is what can you expect? What's your responsibility?
Yeah, as you hear all these nights. Oh, I want a therapy dog. I have some emotional stuff or whatever I'm dealing with. It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Maybe I should get a dog.
Yeah. So when you deal with, I'll answer this question. I usually go like this when I answer questions.
Absolutely.
So I used to be in trouble when I was a kid, and I just beat around a little while.
So you hit the right answer.
By the time I answered it, you're all confused. Anyways, so when you deal with veterans, and not to take away from any veteran, but when you deal specifically with the Special Forces community, they are at the tip of the spear, so to speak. So their training, the amount of time they have in them. When you hand them, so our breeds are German Shepherds, Dutch Shepherds, and Belgian Malinois, which are a working breed. Those three breeds.
And what kind of dog is that?
This dog is a Malinois Shepherd cross. She has Shepherd back in her, but she's a Malinois. I didn't want to tell her that, but today's the first day she just heard about that. That's why I look at her eyes. I found out who I was not long ago from my parents, and I was like, really? Why didn't you tell me that? But when you hand them over the responsibility of one of these dogs, they're aware of them because they've operated overseas with them. Everybody knows the story of the Middle East, the dogs that are supporting the Navy SEAL community and all the other communities. The Malinois, the Dutch Shepherds, the German Shepherds come from wartime, specifically out of World War II. So if you watch them come into North America and Europe, out of that from Europe. So we hand them this responsibility. It's not for everybody.
No.
So we hand it over, and people look at the veterans like, oh, they're broken, and they got PTSD and all that stuff. Here's the case is, and I'm not going to get too much into it because it's not my lane.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised a lot of times how much they just want a dog that's going to watch their back and their family's back. So if they're deploying overseas, a dog that's home with their wife and kids
Nice.
it is nice because it takes a lot of stress off them.
The responsibility of defending and protecting, because
Defending
that's
and
what
protecting,
they
that's
do.
right. So mentally, what's that do for
Yeah.
them? Mentally, they can focus on their mission. They're not distracted. So we deal, we never took away that, we can't take it away, it's natural, but that protection line into the service dog program. And that's where we're a little different. We understand what it is that is going on with the community, and we have been blessed with a dog that does all the work. And when you give that responsibility to these gents, they're very aware of what that is. One of the guys that's the president of Special Operations Wounded Warriors, Judd Kuhn, he said, it's giving them back their sword.
Absolutely.
And they're very aware of what that is. They're aware of a sword, they're aware of it's a weapon, they're very aware of the responsibility that comes with it. So that's basically what we're doing. We're giving them back an asset, a weapon that is able to watch over the families, protect them, and mentally, you guys are the expert at that. Jess thinks mentally I should be quiet. That's what she's looking at.
But as far as mental, how do you find that once you handed over a dog that is suffering from PTSD, anxiety, or whatever mental aspect in life they're having, once you hand over a dog to them, do you find when you run into these people, I'm sure you keep in contact with them, do you find a calm across them? How did they compare before they got the dog to after they received the dog? Is there a change that you see, you know what I mean? Like, the dog's able to facilitate a calm towards the person, reduces the anxiety.
Yeah. So I mean, for what we've witnessed, not to toot our own horn, because really we're not doing it. We have a training program, so it's not that we're not just standing there handling, but the dogs again do all the work, and they're the ones that and here's people can't explain it. There's so many different avenues of medicine. This medicine didn't work, so we're going to try this. And whereas the dog is just, it works. So I've seen personally, it change people's lives, and not just the lives of the veteran, but the lives of the family, the lives of the kids. One gal, her name is Jessica as well. A buddy of mine, you develop friendships. Timmy. He is an American veteran, Special Forces veteran. His wife said that they got their dad back, and this will affect our children's generation just to have them back. So, it does things you just can't explain,
Absolutely. Because, like I run the labs, I run the science. So if I take somebody who has post-traumatic stress disorder, a collection of symptoms to describe something that they feel, right? So basically, a person is in a heightened state of fight or flight chronically all the time. So some type of traumatic event, war is the absolute, ultimate fight or flight. So someone, just imagine, you cannot get out of that. Your body is in full hormones, fight or flight response, and you can't turn off that switch. I can run the physical labs, get the science on, and say, yeah, this person's depleted in vitamins, minerals, their neurotransmitters are out, but then how do we start to rebuild and bring back that person back? Like, how do we get that person back? A lot of it, yeah, there are some nuts and bolts that we can do on a physical level, but on the less tangible, like dealing with the stress, the emotion of whatever the trauma is, all those other layers of what's going on mentally for the person, as opposed to like, I can't now defend my family because I'm broken or I'm somewhat defeated. So like you said, not only is it giving them their sword back, but it's that unexplainable bond that you can't do with just the medicine.
Yeah, you can't do the medicine. It takes them out of that and demands that they get out. An isolated veteran, the worst thing is isolation.
Right.
So now they got to take the dog out, but they're not just taking Fluffy for a walk.
No.
They got to take it now and working on an obstacle course. They got to do X, Y, and Z to keep it sharp, which takes them back to their training, because as a soldier they know that you have to be sharp, you have to be disciplined. So things that they were going to give up and walk away from because they didn't want to go there anymore. The uniforms in the Pelican case, they don't put it on. It's tucked away up.
So it gives them a purpose.
The purpose that they once had, they put that away. They don't want to see it, talk about it. This is just my opinion, but when you draw that back out and go, you can't put that away. That's you.
Yeah.
You know what discipline is. You know what consistency is. You know what communication is. You know what isolation is. You know all that stuff. So now when you don't point the finger, you just work it through the dog and through the program. Next thing you know, they're going through an obstacle course again. They're going into a confined space again where they didn't want to go.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle of it going, holy crap, I'm in a confined space because the dog is there. If it was me telling them, come on, it's okay, come on into a confined space, they're like, you're nuts, man, I'm not going in there. But put a dog with them and they'll go into that environment that they just wanted to put away and not go anymore. So yeah, it gives them purpose.
You take away their
Keeps them
crutch,
sharp.
or you give them a crutch. You can look at it two ways. You take it somebody that's been at a higher level. It's a high end, like they're the highest of the highest. You know what I mean? SEALs, military, anybody that's out there either to serve the public in some shape or form. And now, that's all they've known. Now you've taken that away from them by some sort of mental stress. They feel that maybe they're not worthy of the individual they were, and then the mental stress starts to, fester and work. And now you provide them with a dog. It adds life to the whole.
Yeah.
To it all.
Can I speak about? So you're a firefighter.
Correct.
Yeah. Do you talk about that on here?
Not really.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
man, little.
so you're a firefighter. You're a full-time firefighter. My brother's a volunteer firefighter at a department locally. And you look at firefighters. You go to law enforcement officers. You look at paramedics. Okay. So you see all these different communities, and when people look at the ones that are dealing with, they're using the term PTSD or stress or anxiety. You look at the firefighting community, the EMS community overall, law enforcement, paramedic. You see guys that don't want to deal with fires anymore. As a matter of fact, they don't want somebody drive by down the road and somebody's hurt. I don't want to deal with them. I've been dealing with people like that my whole life.
Your tank overflows.
Say again?
Your tank overflows.
Your tank overflows. But you put a dog in your hands, maybe you go into the fire again. You're willing to grab that hose and fight. And it's the same thing with your community as it is, I think, with these guys and gals. There's a lot of need, you said it, in the emergency service community. We're just specifically dealing with the veterans and the soldiers. But there is a huge need for law enforcement. We have tons of guys around us that are law enforcement officers, firefighters, and you hear their stories as they sit down amongst the guys. And they're always like, we're not at your level, but you'll hear the veterans correct them and say, hey man, you're on the wall with us. Yeah. You guys are out, healing the sick and fighting the fires and dealing with, on the streets of law enforcement. Everybody's on the same wall doing different tasks.
But I think as you see society, correct me if I'm going wrong, but as society moves along and becomes more modern and technology and and the social skills aren't what they used to be, I think you're going to see more and more of mental health. People don't know how to interact with each other. You see it more and more every day, right? And kids 19, 20 that are suffering from mental health. And what reason? When I was 19, 20, mental health, either it was the way I was brought up or the activities I was involved in, but it didn't exist when I was just like, let's do it. You know what I mean?
We could be here for 3 days talking about that.
Yeah.
Reality, my dad has a saying, you can't text message a dog, it's not an app. So you got to communicate with it. You just can't. You have to open your mouth and you have to talk to it. You have to tell it when it's doing something good, and you have to communicate when it's not doing something good. And that might involve a correction verbally, or sometimes you got to give the leash if they're trying to chase another dog or bite somebody they're not supposed to, or they're doing something that's just not good. You have to be able to do that, and that involves aggression. When you correct somebody or you bring a correction verbally, it involves you to lift your aggression level, which these people, they don't want to do it, right? They just want to put that away, lock it up. I don't want to be like that anymore. Well, listen, you got to do it, because you got a dog that might be looking at somebody and growling at them, and you tell them to leave it alone and don't do that, and they continue to do it. You got to step out of that box. You draw them out of that community. I don't know how I got on that. I don't know where I was going.
You can't text a dog.
Yeah.
It's coming back to those communication skills.
Yeah. And
it's not easy to communicate sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's challenging.
It is challenging. I've been married for 20-something years. It's super hard, especially 7 a.m. I don't like it. So what else, man?
But I was telling Steph.
So,
go ahead. No, go ahead. I have a way of just interrupting everybody.
I have a way of talking too much.
And then I forgot my question. So we're talking a lot about the characteristics of the human, right? Of high performance and high standards and high communication and all of this. Those same qualities, you were talking about a little bit genetics and breeding and personality, male, female, with dogs. How does that all mix in with kind of setting apart different standards of high performance animals?
You mean in our selection? Or?
Yeah, in your selection and matching, and is that part of the process where you're matching dogs with humans and
Yeah, I mean,
different levels of their abilities and skills.
Yeah. So the real, I guess you'd call it the intellectual property is the genetics and how we're breeding, and really my father is, I don't like to say the word master because I don't think you can master anything really, but I think that he's the one that has the most wisdom in that community. But yeah, so over the years, I would like to say that we've got it down to an art now where we know what these two pair of dogs are going to produce, and those dogs most consistently have the temperament that will go into the veteran community. And then we have two dogs that are going out soon in December overseas to a special forces unit that are active. So they're active dogs going with active special forces guys that will be going overseas with them. So we pick from those guys, but the genetics are, I don't know anything about genetics really because it's a mystery.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot of theories out there about genetics, I guess. When I hear it, I'm a Christian. You guys gonna put this on there? You gonna talk about Jesus? Okay. So I look at what the Lord has done for my family and I environmentally with the dogs and how we keep consistency with that, because if we're not consistent with the feeding, with the training program, with the environment where they live, with the environment where they're raised, the people that are raising them, then that does affect the genetics, which in turn you can take all of this for the veteran, hand it over to them, and it can become a burden. That dog they attach themselves to genetically has hip dysplasia, eye problems. They're spending more time at the vet. They have skin problems. They're worried about their dog now. Their dog's sick. It's got ear problems.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that is what you're specifically talking about.
That's a whole other point too of the health of the animals and how you're kind of, I guess, orchestrating it in a way. Where I think it's the same with humans, is that we have a genetic code or programming, but it depends on all those same factors: our environment, where we're raised, the food that we're eating, all of these different factors. And if something's a little off in our environment, that's what pulls the trigger, and the genetic programming of disease plays, right? So I guess it's the same as
you
as
put it
you're
way
doing
better than I put it.
with animals.
Yeah,
right?
It is the same.
That.
Yeah.
It goes back to, I think it was the first podcast when we talked about, you handed me the sheet and picked three words that would describe you in order to be successful in life. And I think one of the ones I chose was harmony. And if you don't have harmony in life, doesn't matter what it is. If something's out of place and you're not running harmonically, if that is a word, harmonically, but if you're not running in harmony, everything else falls off. And you need harmony, not in your life, even in the whole aspect of what you do in the dog's life. Everything has to be in harmony, environment, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you lose the harmony, you lose how you function in normality in life.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
My dad uses the word vibration.
Vibration?
Yeah, he uses the word vibration. So everything is a vibration from the Lord. The Lord has a vibration in the trees, the plants, the animals.
It's true. The Chinese believe in the yin and the yang, and the way it flows through your body, and
Yeah, so we're always coming back to this state of balance. So I guess my question was how do you, the dog with its personality, how does that come in as you would match it with the characteristics of your veterans of creating a nice bond or match? Is there situations where you would say, okay, no, this dog would not work with this person?
Yeah, or there's situations sometimes where the person, the recipient,
and you have to return.
Yeah, I mean, not you don't hope for that, but it happens. I mean, it just, so they might say, hey, listen, or we might say, this. We kind of, it's big boy plays, so there's big boy rules to it. So we tell them if it doesn't work, then we'll figure it out, right? So it's there are different dogs with different temperaments, whereas this gen can handle, a dog that pushes them a little bit, doesn't want to listen to him, wants to get involved and knock the medicine off the shelf, stir it up a little bit, whereas more laid back. So yeah, there is a matching process for sure, and we're, like I said before, we're familiar with our breed, we're familiar with the temperaments, and we're familiar with the genetics, and we stick to the three breeds: the German Shepherd, the Dutch Shepherd, and the Belgian Malinois, which are all herding breeds, for a reason. Because one, we believe they're the most effective service dogs out there. Not that they've been the most effective but for us and our recipients, and we understand them. You know, a dog is a dog, but different dogs, different people. So I'm very familiar with those three breeds, so I stick to it. And so yeah, I don't know if that
There's a lot of drive and motivation to do this kind of work, and I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of stress too. So how do you keep sane in all of this, and what kind of strategies do you use running this kind of
the truth or the lie?
All of it.
Okay, so I'll tell you the truth. So the truth is spiritually, I'm a Christian, so I've given all that to the Lord, and that's, you know, Jesus is, you know, I got Jesus on my shoes. You know that Jesus shoes with Nike the other day sold.
I heard that.
Listen, dude, it's Jesus. So that's the first thing. My wife is, you know, we've known each other since we're 3 years old. And I'm gonna get into the dogs in a minute, but we've known each other for a long time, and you know, I've been in the community, indoctrinated into the community. I've been overseas with these gentlemen, so I'm not them. I understand them. So, you know, I have Christ, I have my wife and my family, and then I have the dogs. And the dogs are, we have a saying on the facility, it's dog before the dollar. And, you know, to motivate myself every now and then, it takes a story. The other day I had a gentleman tell me a story that, you know, you basically don't know what you guys have done, the dogs have done for me. And when you hear the backdrop of that story and what they were going to do to themselves, or what was going to happen to the families and what the dogs have done, you keep pushing. And I had a conversation on the way over here with a gentleman, and we were, you know, he was frustrated. And you get frustrated, you think that, you know, God bless them, you boys can be draining. You know? But, you know, you're it's draining like any business. And my wife told me the other day, Josh, listen, you're talking to this guy, you didn't want to get up and go to work. So it's the same thing. You got to keep pushing, and that's what we do. We keep pushing, and we won't stop. I mean, that's the reality of it. We won't stop. We are committed, and we don't say that for a medal or award or any on a pedestal. These guys know us, and they know veterans are very smart guys. The Bible says anxiety weighs heavy on a man's heart, but a good word sets him at ease. You can tell when a good word's coming in. You can be having a panic attack, and I'm very familiar with panic attacks, and somebody come around, you'll be all right, don't worry about it. You know, that ain't going to do nothing for me. You know, but when you have somebody that has experience in the community, walks up, don't worry about it, buddy, grab a leash, let's go. You know, so Christ, my wife and family, and the dogs. That's what motivates me. And that involves my family as the veteran community. So when I say family, those are the veterans.
Right, absolutely.
You know what I mean? They're the ones, or anybody in need, you know, anybody that needs a dog. There's a sale on dogs at Baden K9.
Who are your mentors, teachers, guides in all of this?
My mentors, man, you're asking me to just plug your ears. No. You know what? I'll say it again. You know, my mentors used to be the world, the you know, how fast can we go, how much can we get, and how much can we get done, you know. And I say this very humbly. I've been around the world. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Central South America, and I've been, you know, at a very young age, I was in the community, traveling all over the place. I've been on private airplanes. I've been in fast cars. I've seen it all, done it all, basically, and that's what drew me back to the Lord and the foundation of the Lord. So my mentor, number one, is Christ. He gives me all guidance, all wisdom, all security, and all peace. And then I have my father, which is sometimes too wise of a man.
Right.
You can't get in an argument with him because he tried to, and it doesn't really work. You know, he's gonna outdo you, met my father. But you know, my wife, my mother, and you know, I've been mentored by a homeless man on the side of the street, thinking I was gonna help him out. You know, and I hand him over a couple of bucks and tell him how life was gonna be. You know, so
Everybody has a story.
Everybody
has a story worth listening to. You could be the homeless guy on the side of the street, but that homeless guy has a story. You know what I mean? He wasn't always homeless. He got there, and he's got an interesting story to tell, right? So we should never default people. You know, never judge a book by its cover.
Yeah. And also the dogs, you know, my dad says they're the only creature that leave their own kind to join man. So they do. Yeah, I mean, it's a business for us, but you are humbled looking at them and going, you know, the dog's growling because it's reflecting you. You know, the dog's doing this because you're doing that. You know, so you can't hide it.
Calm. I find when I had my dog, there was a calm that, you know what I mean?
When are you coming to get another dog?
Hey, Donna, when are we coming to get another dog?
Yeah. Actually, that's when if she's watching, you say, hey, we got another dog.
Yeah.
Well, that one's sold. We can't pick him up.
Aaron, what do you think? You're like, dude, you guys done yet?
But I found your facilities when I started training there, and Josh and I met. I bought a dog and had no idea how to train this dog, and the person that I was buying the dog from Eric recommended his facility, and he goes, just go there and be open-minded. And I rolled up there and with my 10-week-old German Shepherd pup and started training, and then we became friends. And it was after each training scenario that you go back in the house. So it wasn't like, okay, go home, you go back in the house, your mother, your father put tea on, and you shoot the shit, and you know, you become a big family. And how many years later we've been here, and when we started doing these podcasts or video casts, I thought about Josh and all the goodness he's done, and especially all the, you know, the quality of dogs they produce, and the family and the support network behind these dogs. It's just amazing.
Yeah, man, thanks. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you guys. We're humbled to be here. I mean, it's an honor. It's an honor to stay connected, and thanks. You know, I'm always interested in the scientific side of the house.
Right.
You know, I got a grade 9 education. I know one big word, and that's nothing. But you know, it does come into our lives, especially with the service dog program. You know, the medicine, the medical side of the house. I'm involved in it, but I don't get too much involved in it because it's not my lane. But I know, you know, obviously with everything that's going on within this community, there's a great need for, you know, we hand them a sword, but the sword needs a sheath, and there's all kinds of different other
There's so
weapon
many
systems.
layers,
Yeah.
and it's all, I mean, it's the same, it takes a whole bunch of different factors. It's not just, okay, the
That's
dog
right.
is the one solution.
That's right.
It's a piece to the whole moving parts of
Yeah.
the solution.
Look at cannabis.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on right now in Canada. Like it went from, you know, everybody's hiding in the tree line to boom, it's out there, and not only out there, it's medicinally impacting the veteran community hugely. And you know, I don't get again into medicine, but there are different layers, tons of different layers, and some of the people are hiding behind them still, you know. So
Josh presented us with a gift. Steph. Do you want to explain this, Josh?
I'll explain it. So this is what's called a challenge coin. I have a bunch of challenge coins. So where we go, I didn't know what they were years ago until somebody gave me a challenge coin. I hope I say this right. But anyways, this challenge coin specifically is from the Canine project at the Navy SEAL Museum. So I'm permitted to give this challenge coin because I'm part of the Canine project. Raven is on the coin, so Raven is one of the dogs that we donated to the Navy SEAL Museum. He's actually the mascot for the Navy SEAL Museum, Raven. And on the back it just says Navy SEAL Museum and Memorial, Educate and Honor. So what we do is we hand these challenge coins out, and you shake your person that you're doing the giving to, and then they take that challenge coin and they just rub on your hand just like that. No. So then what happens is you just challenge people. So in the community of Tommy and I went to the bar and we were going to get a drink. He just slammed that on the table, and if I didn't have a challenge coin, I'd be buying drinks.
Right.
So that's what the challenge coin is, and it's got the brand and it's got a story and a history behind it. So I don't personally have one for my company. We're in the making of getting one, but we have tons of them. So that one right there I hand out, and so there you go. I brought one. There was another Navy SEAL one from the museum, but I don't hand those out just because it's not my lane, but I am permitted to hand out the Canine one.
In the Navy SEAL, that's in Florida, correct?
Fort Pierce, Florida, yeah. So the Navy SEAL Museum is in Fort Pierce, Florida, and it's the original, I gotta say this right, it's the original training ground for the Navy SEALs, the underwater demolition team, the UDT Navy SEAL Museum. So it's really cool, man. Like on November 8th this month, we have a demonstration. It's called the Muster. It's when everybody gathers together, and we do a huge demo there. So we have helicopters, dogs, bites, people, fellowship.
So that'll be on your site, if they
Yeah,
go to
we'll
your
do-
Instagram site or
Yeah,
your
Facebook. Usually we'll do some live, but specifically go to the Navy SEAL Museum, UDT Navy SEAL Museum, on their Facebook and Instagram. Then go. Am I allowed to plug things?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
say
Okay, make
what-
sure you guys put this on. Okay. So I don't get into us much, Baden K9. You can see I don't wear any of my brand. I probably should, but I always give glory and credit to whoever around me. It always works for me. But the Navy SEAL Museum, their Facebook and their Instagram page or any social media, SAL, Special Operations Wounded Warriors, they have a very effective canine program that is for the veterans in the community and other programs to serve them. Hunting. Shadow Warriors Project is a charity that's owned by Mark Geis, which is this shirt. Oz at a 13 hours. Good friend of mine, Mark. He's a Marine, and he worked in Benghazi and was on the roof. Good Christian dude. And Victor Marks ATP Ministry. Victor Marks he's got a whole cool thing going on. If you go on his social media, he's got some of our service dogs. He's a very active dude. I think he's the fastest army gun disarm on social media. He's got like 10,000 billion trillion views on that. But good dude, good brother. So go to those.
Awesome.
Where can we find out more about what you do locally in Niagara?
Yeah,
so
so
can I bring Fluffy over?
You
for
can
some
bring
training?
Fluffy over, yeah. So if you so Baden K9 is our
Did
company.
you name him Fluffy?
No, Freddie.
I like Fluffy. Baden K9, we're outside of we're in St. Anne's, so a little vine country up in St. Anne's. We have some acres there with a barn, just a ranch,
Nice.
dogs, rustic. We've changed it since you've been there last. You were there when all the military obstacles and stuff back, face paint, all that cool stuff was going on. But we've changed it to accommodate the public. So, yeah, that's us.
Come check out Josh. Check out his dog. His dog's been here for what, 40 minutes? As long as we've been filming, and most dogs wouldn't lay there as peacefully and quiet as this dog does. So
We gave
lot
her
to
some
these-
of these products. That's great.
it's CBD.
Is it?
He's stoned. Or she's stoned.
She's hungry. She's got the munchies.
Yeah, anyways, check out Baden K9. Great facility, great people, great dogs. You're not going to get any better than what they have to offer, from protection to PTSD and anxiety and anything to do with mental health. Josh, it's been a pleasure. I
Amen.
appreciate
God bless you guys. Thank you.
coming out here. We'd
Appreciate
like to come out one
Thank
time
you. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
do a filming at your farm, just to
Yeah.
show our audience or show our friends out there what
Yeah.
what you do, and
For sure. Yeah, come on out.
any questions, stuff.
Thank you. It's,
You're welcome.
no,
Thank you.
for dropping
Thank
in
you,
and
guys.
spending time to discuss
Taking
Thank you.
time out
all
of
the
your
great
day.
work that you're
Yeah,
doing.
Oh, easy.
Amazing.
We're gonna fill bags full of stuff when we leave.
Thanks everybody for watching, and stay tuned for our next podcast where we're going to continue with mental health, but maybe just take a little bit more of the supplements and nutrition side of it,
Sure.
and what people can do to,
Different modalities.
Different
of
modalities,
healing your
yeah.
health.
perfect. All right, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.
Cheers.